Pathetic!
A loud crash echoed through the luxury penthouse as Kang Joon-Seo stumbled into the edge of his dining table, nearly taking an expensive vase down with him. He caught the vase at the last second, then stared at it, then at himself in the reflection of the dark window. Pathetic, he muttered. The city lights of Seoul glowed behind him like a silent audience, watching his worst night unfold. His tie hung loose around his neck. His usually perfect hair was a mess. 3 untouched reports sat on the table beside him, along with headlines on his tablet screaming about declining investor confidence in KJ Global. Tomorrow morning, the board would tear him apart. And honestly, he was too exhausted to care. His phone buzzed again. Am I in Cho? Joon-Seo scoffed. Now you want to call? He ignored it. Another buzz. Another call. Then a message. We need to fix this before the board meeting. Joon-Seo laughed bitterly. Fix. That word irritated him. People always wanted to fix disasters after creating them. He grabbed his whiskey glass, took another sip, then unlocked his phone. He pressed record. You know what, he said coldly. Cancel tomorrow's breakfast meeting. Cancel the investor call, too. I'm tired of cleaning up everybody's mess. He paced slowly. And Min-ho, he added, voice sharper now. If he lies to my face one more time, I might actually lose my mind. He let out a tired laugh, then finished with, I swear everybody in this company is useless. He hit send, then tossed the phone onto the couch. A few seconds later, his assistant texted, Sir, who did you send that to? Joon-Seo frowned. His stomach dropped. He snatched the phone back up and froze. Not sent to his assistant. Not sent to Min-ho. Sent to Tasha Colins. Unknown number. Joon-Seo stared at the screen in horror. What? Welcome to Afro-Korean Stories by MOJ. If this is your first time coming across my channel, subscribe, like, and comment where you're watching from and the time. Let us connect. Now, let's get back to the story. Across the city, Tasha Colins was lying upside down on her couch eating instant noodles while arguing with her sewing machine. You are demonic, she informed it seriously. The sewing machine remained silent. Exactly, she said. Guilty people always stay quiet. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it lazily, without checking the number. Then pressed play. A deep male voice filled her apartment. You know what? Cancel tomorrow's breakfast meeting. Tasha paused mid-slurp. Oh. I swear everybody in this company is useless. She blinked, then burst out laughing so hard noodles almost flew out of her mouth. Oh my God, she wheezed. Who is this angry billionaire? She replayed it, again, then sat up straighter. The voice was smooth, deep, irritated in a very expensive way, like a man who had never stood in line a day in his life. Tasha grinned. This was entertaining. She typed, Hi. I think you accidentally sent me your villain origin story. She hit send immediately, then waited. 3 dots appeared almost instantly, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, delete that message. Tasha barked out another laugh. No greeting? No apology? Straight to threats? Incredible. Her phone rang immediately. Unknown number. She answered while still laughing. Hello, mysterious corporate menace. A cold voice answered instantly. Delete the message. Tasha sat up properly now. Oh wow, you're actually serious. I sent that by mistake. Well, yes, she said. That part was obvious. Silence. Then, delete it. Tasha twirled noodles around her fork. You know, she said thoughtfully, most people start conversations with hello. I am not most people. Oh, I can tell. Another pause. Miss Tasha. Tasha, he repeated carefully. Delete the message. She smiled. No. Dead silence. The kind that felt expensive. Then, you think this is funny? I know this is funny, she corrected. You sound like a K-drama CEO one argument away from throwing a glass at the wall. Joon-Seo glanced at the shattered glass near his kitchen. That is irrelevant. Tasha gasped dramatically. Oh my God. You did throw something. Silence again. Then she heard a long exhale from him. Not angry this time. Tired. Very tired. That softened her slightly. Ah, she said. Bad day. That is none of your business. Terrible answer. Very rude. 2 out of 10. You are extremely irritating. And yet, Tasha replied proudly. You called me? Another pause. Then, do you always talk this much? Yes, she said instantly. It's part of my charm. I doubt that. Ouch, she replied. See? This is why your employees are stressed. A faint sound escaped him suddenly. Small. Quick. Almost like a laugh. Tasha froze dramatically. Wait. Silence. Did you just laugh? I did not. You did. I didn't. You absolutely did. It was a cough. That was the most emotionally unavailable cough I've ever heard. Joon-Seo rubbed his forehead. Why was he still on this call? He should have ended it 5 minutes ago. Yet somehow this stranger was the first interesting thing that had happened to him all week. That message was private, he said finally. Tasha shrugged, even though he couldn't see her. So, was my landlord yelling at me this morning, but life happens. That is not comparable. It is emotionally comparable. Silence. Then, what do you do? Tasha blinked. Oh, we're asking questions now. I'm trying to understand why a stranger thinks mocking me is appropriate. Freelance designer, she replied proudly, and part-time survivor of bad financial decisions. A pause. What does that mean? It means Seoul is expensive and noodles are loyal. Another tiny sound from him. Definitely amusement this time. Tasha pointed accusingly at her phone. Huh. You laughed again. I did not. You're literally becoming human in real time. Joon-Seo leaned back against his couch, exhausted. This conversation made no sense. And somehow he didn't want it to end yet. Dangerous. Very dangerous. What company do you work for anyway? Tasha asked casually. Silence. Then, you don't know? Should I? Another pause. Then calmly. KJ Global. Tasha nearly dropped her noodles. Wait. Her eyes widened. No way. Yes. The giant tech company? Yes. The terrifying CEO everyone online calls the Korean robot man? Before we continue, if you love Afro-Korean romance stories with comedy, chaos, and slow burn tension, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and comment below. Robot man needs help. Because honestly, Tasha might be the only person brave enough to fix him. Comment what time and country you're watching from. Long silence. Then, people call me that? Tasha burst into laughter again. Oh my god, you don't know your own memes. This conversation is over. No, wait. Too late. He hung up. Tasha stared at her phone, then immediately laughed harder. The Korean robot man. Her phone buzzed again. A text from him. Delete the audio. Tasha grinned wickedly, then typed. Only if you admit you laughed twice. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then finally, once. Tasha screamed into her pillow laughing. Tasha woke up the next morning to 17 missed calls from her best friend, Amara. That was never a good sign. She squinted at her phone, then saw the messages. Amara, why is your CEO boyfriend trending? Amara, call me now. Amara, you never told me you were talking to the KJ Global CEO. Tasha sat upright immediately. What? She clicked the next message. A screenshot. An anonymous post from an office gossip forum. Rumor says CEO Kang Joon-Seo accidentally sent a drunken rant voice note to a woman last night. PR team currently in crisis mode. Tasha's jaw dropped. Oh no. Another screenshot. Sources claim the woman has the original audio. Another. Apparently, she made him laugh on the phone. Tasha stared at the screen in horror. Do they know that part? Her phone rang instantly. Amara. Tasha answered, before she could speak. Who are you talking to? Amara screamed. Tasha pulled the phone away from her ear. First of all, good morning. No, forget morning. Why is the Korean robot man involved in your life? Tasha collapsed back onto her pillow dramatically. I don't know. I was eating noodles and suddenly capitalism attacked me. Amara gasped loudly. You have the voice note? Yes. Play it.
No. Why?
Because I think he might actually teleport here and sue me personally. Amara started laughing uncontrollably. Oh my God. Tasha, this is the funniest thing that has ever happened to you. It's not funny, Tasha protested weakly. It's hilarious.
Her phone buzzed again.
Unknown number. Tasha froze. Speak of the emotionally unavailable devil. Amara screamed again. Answer it. I am coming over right now. Tasha sighed and picked up. Hello, robot man. Joon-Seo's voice came immediately. Why is there a rumor online? Straight to the point. No greeting. Classic. Tasha sat up. Why are you saying it like I own the internet? Did you share the message?
No.
Are you certain? She gasped dramatically.
Wow.
Trust issues. This is serious. So is my rent, she replied. Yet here we are.
A pause.
Then, my PR team has been trying to trace the leak since 6 this morning. Tasha blinked. You have a PR team emergency because of one voice note? It is not just a voice note. Then what is it? Silence. Then he sighed. The board already thinks I am too aggressive. Tasha snorted. Whoever thinks that clearly heard your phone manners. Another pause. Then, this situation is damaging company stability. Wow, Tasha said. That sounds stressful and rich. This is not funny. Everything is funny eventually. Not this. Tasha paused slightly.
Okay.
He genuinely sounded stressed. Not angry.
Stressed.
That changed the tone a little. She sat up properly. Hey, she said more softly. I really didn't leak it. Silence. Then quietly. I know. That surprised her. You do? Yes. Then why'd you call sounding like an FBI investigator? Because everyone else is panicking. She blinked. That was probably the most honest thing he'd said so far. Before she could answer, Amara loudly whispered beside her. Ask him if he's handsome in real life. Tasha slapped a pillow over Amara's face. Joon-Seo's voice sharpened instantly. Who is there? Oh my God, Tasha muttered. You hear everything. Who is there? My friend. A pause. Then, suspiciously, did she hear the audio? Amara shouted from the background, Playboy CEO, we support you. Joon-Seo went silent. Complete silence. Tasha covered her face. I'm going to die. What? He asked slowly. Did she just call me? Tasha wheezed. She's unserious. Ignore her. Another long silence. Then, unexpectedly, Playboy. Tasha burst out laughing. I told you. Unserious. I have never been called that in my life. Congratulations, Tasha replied proudly. Character development. A faint sound escaped him again. That tiny almost laugh. Tasha pointed at the phone dramatically. There. Again. It was not laughter. Sir, you are literally healing. I regret calling you. No, you don't. Silence. Then, possibly. Tasha grinned. Amara stared at her with wide eyes. You're flirting with him, Amara mouthed dramatically. Tasha nearly choked. No, I am not. Joon-Seo immediately asked. You are not what? Nothing. Who are you talking to? Why are you interrogating me like a detective? Because every 5 seconds you say something alarming. That's just my personality. Another pause. Then, you are exhausting. And yet you keep calling me. That shut him up briefly. Tasha smiled triumphantly. Got him. Then suddenly, another call beeped through on his side. His tone immediately changed. Professional. Cold. Sharp.
Speak. Tasha blinked. Whoa.
That switch was terrifying. A muffled voice answered on the other side. Joon-Seo's expression darkened instantly. When? A pause.
No.
Delay the meeting. Another pause. Find out who leaked it. Tasha listened quietly now. The playful energy faded slightly. This really was becoming a mess for him. Then he said something that made her sit up straighter. What do you mean, someone from the design department? He went quiet. Very quiet. Then, I'll handle it personally. The call ended. Tasha frowned. What happened? Silence. Then, nothing. Oh, please, she scoffed. That was the loudest nothing I've ever heard. A long exhale came from him. Then, finally, the leak may have come from someone connected to an upcoming company project. So, another pause. Then, you applied for that project. Tasha froze. Excuse me? You submitted a freelance application to KJ Global 3 weeks ago. Her jaw dropped. How do you know that? I reviewed the files this morning. Why would the CEO review freelance applications? Because now your name is attached to a company problem. Tasha stared at the wall. Oh my God. Another pause. Then calmly. You have an interview today.
What?
At 2 p.m. What? You were shortlisted before this happened. Tasha sat bolt upright. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. I cannot walk into your company after this. You can. I'll combust from embarrassment. That is not a real condition. It will become one. For the first time, his voice sounded slightly amused again. You are dramatic, and you are terrifying. Yet you're still talking to me. That's because my survival instincts are weak. Another tiny silence. Then, be at KJ Global at 2 p.m. Tasha blinked. Are you commanding me? Yes. She gasped loudly. Oh my God. You really are the Korean robot man. And this time, he actually laughed. By 1:15 p.m., Tasha had changed outfits 6 times. Amara sat on the bed eating chips, like this was live entertainment. You're panicking, Amara said happily. I am not panicking. You just rejected an outfit because it looked too unemployed. Tasha pointed aggressively at her closet. Because these rich corporate people can smell financial struggle. Amara nearly choked laughing. You are so dramatic. Tasha groaned and collapsed onto the bed. Why am I going there? Why did I agree to this? Why does his voice sound expensive? Amara grinned wickedly.
Oh.
The voice. Don't start. You like him. I like stability, Tasha snapped. And right now stability is not attached to Kang Joon-Seo. Amara held up her phone. Counterpoint. Tall Korean CEO. Tasha snatched a pillow and threw it at her. At exactly 1:58 p.m., Tasha stood outside the towering glass headquarters of KJ Global trying not to throw up from nerves. The building looked intimidating. Not just rich. Organized rich. The kind of rich where employees probably apologized for breathing too loudly. She stared upward. Yeah, she whispered to herself. People definitely cry in this building. A sleek black car pulled up near the entrance. Several employees immediately bowed as a man stepped out. Tailored black suit. Perfect posture. Cold expression. Kang Joon-Seo in daylight somehow looked even more unfairly attractive. Tasha blinked. Oh, that's actually annoying. He walked toward the entrance without looking around much. Then suddenly paused. His eyes landed directly on her. Tasha froze. He froze too. For half a second, neither moved. Then his gaze slowly traveled over her oversized blazer, nervous posture, and coffee cup she was clutching for emotional support. You came, he said simply. Tasha frowned immediately. You sound surprised. You threaten combustion. That was emotionally valid. His mouth twitched slightly. Tiny.
But there.
Tasha pointed dramatically. There. You almost smiled. I did not. You absolutely did. Employees nearby looked between them in confusion. Because nobody, and they meant nobody, talked to Kang Joon-Seo like this. One poor intern nearly looked ready to faint. Joon-Seo noticed the staring instantly. His expression returned to full CEO mode.
Cold. Calm.
Untouchable.
Come inside, he said.
Tasha leaned closer slightly. Wow, she whispered. You switched personalities fast. I have meetings. You sound like Batman with a calendar. A dangerous silence. Then, quietly, what does that even mean? Tasha grinned. You're rich, mysterious, emotionally unavailable, and dressed like darkness. A choked sound escaped one of the employees nearby. Joon-Seo's jaw tightened slightly. Walk. Tasha followed him into the building, trying not to laugh. The lobby alone nearly took her out spiritually. Massive marble floors. Huge digital screens. Employees moving around like stressed luxury ants. This place smells expensive, she whispered. That is not possible. Yes, it is. Rich buildings have a scent. You say strange things. You keep listening to them. That shut him up briefly. A woman in a sharp gray suit rushed toward them nervously. Sir, the board meeting has been moved to 4, and the PR department is still requesting. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw Tasha. Then blinked again. Recognition. Oh no. Tasha saw it immediately. She knows, Tasha whispered. Joon-Seo sighed internally. The woman bowed quickly. Sir, is this? No, he said immediately. Tasha frowned. No what? The woman looked terrified. Joon-Seo answered calmly. She is not part of the scandal. Tasha gasped dramatically. Scandal? Scandal? Is that what we're calling this now? The assistant looked like she wanted the floor to open and swallow her whole. Joon-Seo rubbed his forehead. You are attracting attention. Oh, I'm attracting attention? Tasha repeated. Not the CEO sending emotional breakdown podcasts to strangers? A nearby employee snorted before quickly pretending to cough. Joon-Seo's eyes narrowed slightly. You are enjoying this too much. I absolutely am. His assistant looked between them like she was witnessing history. Because Kang Joon-Seo arguing with a woman in the middle of the lobby instead of terrifying everyone into silence? Unheard of. Joon-Seo turned toward the elevator. Follow me. Tasha walked beside him, then leaned slightly closer. By the way.
What?
You're taller than I imagined. Silence. Then, why would you imagine my height? Tasha grinned. Because your voice sounds tall. He stared at her. That makes no sense. Exactly. The elevator doors opened. The moment they stepped inside, the atmosphere changed.
Quiet. Private.
Joon-Seo loosened his tie slightly. Just a little. Like the public mask had eased. Tasha noticed immediately. Oh my God, she whispered dramatically. You really do become human when employees disappear. I was always human. Debatable. Another tiny, almost smile appeared, then vanished again. The elevator suddenly stopped on another floor. 3 executives entered mid-conversation, then froze when they saw Tasha standing beside Joon-Seo. One older man adjusted his glasses. Sir? Joon-Seo immediately became cold again. Yes. The executives stared openly now. At Tasha. At Joon-Seo. At the suspicious tension between them. Tasha could practically see the gossip forming in real time. One executive cleared his throat awkwardly. We'll take the next elevator. They immediately stepped back out. The doors closed again. Silence. Then Tasha burst into laughter. Oh my God, she wheezed. They think we're having an affair. We are not. I know that. But they don't. Joon-Seo sighed. This is becoming irritating. You know what's irritating? Tasha replied. Your entire company acting like they've never seen a woman before. Another pause. Then, quietly, they have never seen me bring one upstairs. Tasha blinked. Oh. Silence.
Then, oh.
The elevator suddenly felt much smaller. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. Neither of them moved immediately. Tasha was still processing what he had just said. They have never seen me bring one upstairs.
Oh.
Joon-Seo stepped out first like he hadn't casually dropped information capable of destabilizing people emotionally. Tasha hurried after him. Wait, she whispered loudly. What does that mean? It means exactly what I said. That's too vague. It is not. Yes, it is, she argued. Do you never interact with women? I interact with women. That sounded like it was written by artificial intelligence. He ignored her and kept walking. Employees immediately bowed as he passed. Tasha watched in fascination. This is insane. What is? They're bowing like you own oxygen. I own the company. That is not the same thing. They entered a sleek hallway lined with glass offices. Every single employee they passed subtly stared at Tasha.
Some tried not to.
Others failed terribly. One woman nearly walked into a wall. Tasha leaned closer to Joon-Seo. Your employees are terrifyingly nosy. They are curious. They are invested. A younger male employee passed by and accidentally dropped his tablet while staring at them. Tasha winced.
Damn.
We're workplace news already. Joon-Seo looked entirely unbothered. How do you survive being this calm? I compartmentalize. That sounds unhealthy. It is efficient. Same thing with better marketing. For the briefest second, his mouth twitched again. Tasha caught it immediately. Huh.
What?
You're fighting a smile. I'm not. You are losing. I don't lose. That sounded personal. Before he could answer, his assistant from earlier rushed toward them again, carrying a stack of files. Sir, the legal team is asking if we should issue an internal statement regarding the rumor. Tasha gasped. Internal statement? The assistant looked deeply uncomfortable. Joon-Seo remained calm. No statement. But sir, employees are already discussing whether Miss Colins. Tasha pointed at herself dramatically. Oh my God, I have a title now. Is connected to the situation. Joon-Seo's eyes narrowed slightly. She is here for an interview. The assistant nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Then her eyes shifted to Tasha. Then back to him. Then back to Tasha again. The woman was absolutely dying internally. Tasha could see the gossip vibrating inside her soul. Joon-Seo noticed too. Jiun. The assistant straightened immediately. Yes, sir. Stop thinking. Sorry, sir. Tasha slapped a hand over her mouth to stop herself from laughing. The poor woman practically fled after that. The second she disappeared around the corner, Tasha lost it. Oh my God, she wheezed. Stop thinking is crazy. She was distracted. She was curious. She was unprofessional. No, Tasha argued. She was human. That sentence made him glance at her differently for a moment. Like she'd said something unexpectedly important. But before she could read into it, he opened a door beside them. His office. And Tasha stopped breathing for half a second. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Dark wood. Minimalist design. Everything painfully neat. This room has commitment issues, Tasha whispered. Joon-Seo removed his suit jacket calmly. What does that mean? It looks emotionally unavailable. He stared at her. You describe things strangely. You decorate like a billionaire serial killer. A dangerous pause. Then, unexpectedly, serial killers are usually less organized. Tasha blinked, then burst into shocked laughter. Oh my God. Was that a joke? It was factual. No, 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 don't do that, she said, pointing at him accusingly. You can't secretly be funny after acting emotionally constipated for 2 days. He ignored her and walked toward his desk. But Tasha noticed it again. That tiny almost smile. Interesting. Very interesting. She wandered around the office slowly, then stopped at a framed article on the shelf. Kang Joon-Seo, the youngest CEO in KJ global history. Tasha looked at him. You became CEO at 30? Yes. That sounds stressful. It was necessary. The way he said it made something shift slightly in the mood. Less playful. More real. Tasha tilted her head. You don't like talking about yourself, huh? It is unnecessary. That's therapist language for yes. I do not have a therapist. Yeah, she said immediately. I can tell. Another pause. Then she sat across from his desk. So, what exactly am I interviewing for? A brand collaboration project.
Oh.
He opened a file. You submitted designs for our youth campaign. Tasha blinked. You actually looked at my work? Yes. And
A beat.
then calmly, it was better than the others. Tasha froze slightly. That caught her off guard. Not because it was praise. Because it sounded honest. No corporate fluff. No fake politeness. Just direct truth. And somehow that mattered more. Oh, she said softly. Joon-Seo looked back down at the file. You have strong visual instincts. Okay. Now she really didn't know what to do with that. so naturally. She deflected. Wow, she said dramatically. Look at you giving compliments without collapsing. I am capable of normal interaction. Debatable. Before he could respond, his office door suddenly burst open. A handsome Korean man walked in holding a tablet. Hyung, the board members are losing their minds and… He stopped.
Completely.
His eyes landed on Tasha, then slowly turned toward Joon-Seo. Silence.
Then,
Oh. Joon-Seo already looked irritated.
what?
The man pointed between them excitedly. You're the voice note girl. Tasha covered her face instantly. Oh no. The man gasped dramatically and rushed toward her. Do you still have the recording? Joon-Seo's expression darkened immediately. Min-jae. Relax, the man laughed. I just want to hear the legendary rant. It is not legendary. Oh, it absolutely is, Min-jae replied. Half the company thinks you were drunk crying. Tasha whipped around instantly.
Wait.
You were crying? Joon-Seo looked horrified. I was not crying. Min-jae grinned wickedly. His eyes were red this morning. Because I was tired. Emotionally tired? Leave my office. Min-jae looked delighted. Tasha pointed dramatically at Joon-Seo. Oh my god, the robot man has feelings. Min-jae collapsed into a chair laughing like he had just witnessed the greatest moment of his life. Joon-Seo looked 1 second away from firing someone. Possibly everyone. You are being dramatic, Joon-Seo said coldly. Min-jae pointed at him. No, you are being dramatic. You accidentally sent an emotional voice note to a random woman. The company is in chaos, and now the entire office is invested in your love story. It is not a love story. Tasha raised her hand politely. I would also like to clarify that I did not apply for romance. I applied for employment. Min-jae immediately pointed at her. Oh, I like her already. That makes one of us, Joon-Seo muttered.
Tasha gasped.
Wow. Min-jae clutched his chest dramatically. You wound her in front of me? Monster. Joon-Seo rubbed his forehead slowly. This conversation is lowering my life expectancy. Min-jae ignored him completely and turned to Tasha. I'm Choi Min-jae. Unfortunately, I've known him since university. Unfortunately, Tasha repeated. Yes, Min-jae sighed. He was born acting 45. I was responsible. You were boring, Min-jae corrected. Tasha burst out laughing. Oh my god, finally. Somebody honest. Joon-Seo sat behind his desk with the exhausted expression of a man questioning every decision that led to this moment. Min-jae leaned toward Tasha conspiratorially. You know he once rejected a vacation because he said beaches were unproductive? Tasha stared at Joon-Seo in horror. You need help. Beaches are loud. They're oceans. Exactly. Min-jae wheezed. You see what I've suffered through for years? Joon-Seo looked at Min-jae flatly. Why are you still here? Because this is the happiest I've ever seen you. Silence. Joon-Seo narrowed his eyes slightly. I am not happy. Min-jae and Tasha both stared at him. Then simultaneously.
Sure.
Joon-Seo looked deeply offended. Before he could respond, another knock came at the door. Ji-yoon stepped inside nervously. Sir, the PR department is asking again if Miss Colins should sign a confidentiality agreement. Tasha blinked. A what? Ji-yoon looked apologetic. The company is worried the voice note may spread further. Min-jae immediately started laughing again. Oh, they're terrified. Tasha looked at Joon-Seo. Your company thinks I'm about to leak your emotional podcast? It is precautionary. That sounds insulting. It is legal procedure. That sounds even more insulting. Min-jae leaned back in his chair. To be fair, he said, the board members are panicking because the audio makes Joon-Seo sound human. Tasha pointed dramatically. Exactly. Joon-Seo looked offended again. I was always human. No, Min-jae replied immediately. You were a luxury laptop with anger issues. Tasha slapped the desk laughing. That is the most accurate thing anyone has ever said. Ji-yoon looked deeply stressed standing in the middle of this chaos. Poor woman. Joon-Seo noticed her discomfort. Ji-yoon. Yes, sir. Leave the agreement. Yes, sir. She placed the document carefully on the desk, then hesitated, then very carefully asked, "Should I reschedule Miss Collins's formal interview?"
Tasha blinked. Wait.
"We still have to do the interview. Min-jae looked delighted. "Oh, this keeps getting better." Joon-Seo ignored both of them.
Yes.
"Reschedule for tomorrow." Ji-yoon nodded quickly and escaped. The second the door closed, Tasha groaned dramatically. "I can't come back here tomorrow. Your employees look at me like I'm a Netflix scandal." Min-jae grinned. "That's because you are. I hate all of you." Joon-Seo calmly slid the confidentiality agreement toward her. "Read it." Tasha picked it up suspiciously, then frowned. "This is 20 pages. Yes. I'm not reading all this." "You should. I barely read messages longer than 3 lines. That explains a lot."
She gasped.
Was that a joke? It was criticism. Close enough. Min-jae stood up suddenly. "Well," he said cheerfully, "I'm going downstairs to enjoy the office gossip before Joon-Seo starts threatening people." "I do not threaten people." Min-jae stared at him. "You scheduled a meeting called Corrective Accountability Measures last month. That was leadership. That was terrorism with PowerPoint." Tasha nearly fell out of her chair laughing. Min-jae pointed at her while backing toward the door.
See?
"She understands me." "No," Joon-Seo said immediately. "That is the problem." The door closed behind Min-jae. Silence settled for a moment. A quieter one this time. Tasha looked around the office again, then at Joon-Seo, then at the untouched lunch sitting on the side table. "You didn't eat?" "I was busy." "That's unhealthy." "It is efficient." There you go again, sounding like a robot with a LinkedIn account. A tiny exhale left him, almost amusement. She noticed immediately. Interesting. The more exhausted he became, the more human he sounded. Tasha stood up and wandered toward the lunch tray, then frowned. "This looks sad." "It is food. It looks like expensive disappointment." Joon-Seo watched as she opened containers without permission. "You are very comfortable in other people's spaces." "You accidentally trauma-bonded with me over voice notes," she replied casually. "Boundaries disappeared yesterday." He stared at her for a second, then surprisingly, "Trauma-bonded?" "Yes. That is not what happened." "It absolutely is." She held up a container. "What even is this?" "Lunch." "No," she said. "This is decorative suffering." He leaned back slightly in his chair. "You complain constantly." "And yet," she replied proudly, "people enjoy me." Silence. Then quietly, "That appears true." That one caught her off guard again, because he said it softly, honestly, not teasing. Tasha looked at him carefully now. Under the sharp suits and cold tone and terrifying CEO face, he looked tired, like genuinely tired, not just sleepy, heavy tired. "You know," she said more gently, "for someone everybody fears, you actually seem kind of lonely." The room went completely still. Joon-Seo's expression didn't change immediately, but something behind it did. A shift. Small. Dangerous. Because that sentence landed too accurately. Tasha immediately realized it. Oops. He looked away first. Toward the window. Toward the city. Anywhere except her. Then calmly, "You should review the agreement."
Ah.
Deflection. Classic emotionally unavailable behavior. Tasha smiled slightly to herself. Interesting. Tasha stared at the confidentiality agreement for exactly 12 seconds before pushing it away dramatically. "I can't do this." Joon-Seo looked up from his laptop. "You did not even read it." "I read the energy." "That is not a real thing." "It absolutely is," she argued. "And this document has evil energy. It is standard legal protection. It looks like if anxiety became paperwork." A faint pause. Then, "That is surprisingly accurate." Tasha pointed at him immediately. "There. That was humor again." "I made an observation. You're becoming funnier against your will." "I highly doubt that." She leaned back in her chair triumphantly. "Oh, it's happening. Soon you'll be making jokes voluntarily. Then society collapses." Joon-Seo shook his head once and returned to typing. The office became quieter for a few moments.
Not awkward, just oddly calm.
Tasha watched him while pretending not to. The man really worked like a machine. Focused.
Precise. Fast.
Even his typing sounded expensive. "How long have you been here today?" she asked. "Since 5. In the morning?" "Yes." "That's disgusting." He glanced at her briefly and said, "You woke up at noon." "That's called creative freedom." She replied, "That is called unemployment behavior."
He said.
Tasha gasped loudly.
Wow.
Rich people are brutal. A tiny flicker appeared near his mouth again. There it was. That almost smile. She was getting better at spotting them. His phone suddenly buzzed. The moment he looked at the screen, the softness disappeared. CEO mode returned instantly.
Cold.
Sharp.
Controlled. Speak.
Tasha watched quietly as he answered the call. Yes. Silence. Then his jaw tightened slightly.
No.
Delay the article. Another pause. I said delay it. His tone wasn't loud, which somehow made it scarier. Tasha folded her arms.
Yep. Terrifying.
Then he went quiet again, listening. And for the first time, since she met him, he looked irritated for real. Not annoyed. Irritated. No, he said flatly. My personal life is not a PR strategy. Tasha blinked. Oh no. Another pause. Then slowly. Absolutely not. He ended the call abruptly. The silence afterward felt heavier. Tasha tilted her head. What happened? Nothing. She snorted. You say nothing like a man holding back several lawsuits. Joon-Seo leaned back slightly in his chair. The PR department wants to control the rumor.
How?
Silence. Then, by creating a different narrative. Tasha narrowed her eyes suspiciously. What kind of narrative? Another pause. Then, finally, they suggested we appear publicly together. Tasha stared at him, then burst into laughter so violent she almost slid out of the chair. Oh my God. He looked deeply unamused. This is not funny. No, it absolutely is, she wheezed. Appear publicly together? What is this, a K-drama? The company image matters. You know what else matters, she laughed. Therapy. He sighed quietly. They think if people assume we know each other personally, the leak becomes less damaging. Tasha wiped tears from her eyes. Your PR team is insane. They are desperate. That woman downstairs definitely watches too many dramas. Another silence. Then she looked at him carefully. Wait. His expression remained unreadable. Tasha sat up straighter. Oh my God.
What?
You're considering it. I am considering the consequences. That means yes in rich people language. It means I am evaluating options. That is literally the same thing. Joon-Seo looked away briefly, which told her everything. Tasha pointed at him dramatically. You want me to fake date you for corporate stability? I did not say that. You implied it. I explained the situation. Sir, she said, horrified, your company is trying to turn me into a press release. For the first time in several minutes, he actually looked slightly uncomfortable. Interesting. Very interesting. Tasha leaned forward slowly. Have you ever even dated normally before? Yes. She stared at him. I don't believe you. I am not lying. You sound like somebody who schedules emotions through email. That is ridiculous. Is it? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Got him. Tasha slapped the desk triumphantly. Huh. You are impossible. And yet memorable. Another knock interrupted them. June entered carefully carrying coffee. But the second she walked in, she sensed tension immediately. Her eyes widened slightly. Did I interrupt something? Yes. Joon-Seo said instantly. No. Tasha said at the same time. June froze. Poor woman looked spiritually exhausted. Tasha smiled sympathetically. Blink twice if this company stresses you out. June almost smiled before catching herself. Miss Colins, please do not encourage me. Too late. Tasha liked her already. June carefully placed the coffee down, then hesitated. Then, very nervously, Sir, social media has started calling her voice note girl. Silence. Absolute silence. Then Tasha whispered, I hate the internet. Ji-yoon continued carefully. And there's now a rumor that you met through a secret romance. Tasha dropped her head onto the desk dramatically. I'm going to move countries, or perhaps planet. Joon-Seo rubbed his forehead again. Another sign of stress she was starting to recognize. Ji-yoon looked between them, then cautiously added, the public reaction is actually positive. Joon-Seo looked horrified by that information. Positive. Ji-yoon nodded. People are saying you seem more approachable. Tasha immediately sat upright. Oh my God, she laughed. They think I'm fixing you. I do not require fixing. Sir, Ji-yoon said before stopping herself suddenly. Joon-Seo narrowed his eyes.
What?
Ji-yoon panicked slightly. Nothing. No, Tasha grinned. Continue. I want to hear this. Ji-yoon looked trapped. Then quietly. Employees have noticed you smile more around her. Dead silence. Tasha's mouth dropped open dramatically. Then she slowly turned toward Joon-Seo. No way. He looked completely unreadable again, which at this point she was learning usually meant, absolutely yes. Tasha pointed at him with pure delight. Oh my God. The robot man likes me. The robot man does not like you. Joon-Seo said it immediately. Too immediately. Tasha gasped dramatically and pointed across the desk. That was defensive. It was factual. No, she said proudly. That was panic with a necktie. Ji-yoon looked like she desperately wanted to disappear from the room. Unfortunately for her, Tasha had already decided they were friends. Ji-yoon, Tasha whispered loudly. Does he always deny things this fast? Ji-yoon froze. Joon-Seo looked at her assistant slowly. Very slowly. Poor woman looked one heartbeat away from resignation. I enjoy being employed, Ji-yoon answered carefully. Tasha burst into laughter. Oh, this company has trauma. It has standards, Joon-Seo corrected. It has fear, Tasha corrected back. Ji-yoon quickly escaped after placing the coffee down like a woman fleeing a dangerous wildlife situation. The second the door shut, Tasha grabbed one of the coffees. Then paused. Wait. She looked at the cup. Then at him. Then back at the cup again. This has oat milk. Joon-Seo continued typing. Yes. Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. How do you know I drink oat milk? Silence. Joon-Seo typed another email calmly. Lucky guess. Oh, you are such a liar. I am not lying. I observed it once. Tasha stared at him dramatically. Oh my God. You notice things. That is a normal human function. Not for rich CEOs, she argued. You people usually notice profits and stress. A tiny flicker appeared near his mouth again. There it was. Another almost smile. Tasha leaned across the desk accusingly. You keep doing that. What? Tiny secret smiles. I am not smiling. You smile like somebody trying not to get caught. I am working. You are emotionally multitasking. Joon-Seo ignored her and focused on his laptop again. But Tasha noticed something now. Every time she made him almost laugh, he immediately distracted himself with work. Interesting. Very interesting. His office phone rang suddenly. He answered without looking up. Yes. A woman's voice immediately blasted through the speaker loud enough for Tasha to hear. You're trending. Joon-Seo closed his eyes briefly. Mother. Tasha's eyes widened instantly.
Oh.
Oh, this was his son. The woman continued rapidly in Korean before switching into English. And who is the girl? Tasha slapped a hand over her mouth to stop herself from laughing. Joon-Seo's expression became pure suffering. She is not relevant to this issue. That means she's pretty, his mother replied immediately. Tasha choked silently. Oh, she liked this woman already. Mother. I saw the articles. There are no articles. There are many articles. Joon-Seo looked like a man being publicly tortured. His mother continued excitedly. People online are saying she made you smile. Tasha physically had to turn away from him because she was shaking from silent laughter. I have meetings, Joon-Seo said flatly. You always have meetings. Do you finally have a girlfriend?
No.
Then why are investors emailing me asking if you're in love? Tasha lost it. A loud snort escaped her before she could stop it. Joon-Seo turned slowly toward her. The look in his eyes promised consequences. She immediately pretended to cough. His mother heard her instantly. That's her. Silence. Then, dramatically, oh, she sounds pretty. Tasha collapsed onto the desk, laughing silently. Joon-Seo looked ready to walk into traffic. Mother, I'm ending this call. Bring her to dinner.
No.
Joon-Seo.
No.
June. He hung up instantly. Silence filled the office. Then Tasha whispered, Your mother ships us. She does not know you. She already chose me over you emotionally. That is impossible. Sir, Tasha said seriously, your mother just invited me to dinner after hearing me laugh once. Joon-Seo leaned back in his chair slowly. She enjoys interfering. She enjoys entertainment, Tasha corrected. Another pause. Then she grinned mischievously. So,
No.
you don't even know what I was going to ask. Yes, I do. Dinner with your mother sounds hilarious. No. Your refusal makes me want it more. That is exactly the problem. Tasha laughed again and sipped her coffee. Then paused dramatically. This is actually good. I know. You sound proud. I selected it. Oh my God, she said, staring at him. Acts of service. I bought coffee. To emotionally unavailable people, this is basically poetry. Joon-Seo stared at her blankly. How do you turn everything into psychological analysis? I grew up around church women, Tasha replied immediately. I can read tension professionally. For the first time, a real laugh escaped him. Not tiny, not hidden. Actual laughter. Short, deep, surprised laughter. The room went still afterward. Even Joon-Seo looked shocked that it happened. Tasha slowly lowered her coffee cup. Oh my God. He immediately cleared his throat and looked away. That was accidental. No, 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 Tasha whispered dramatically. That was real. It was not. You laughed with your chest. I did not. You experienced joy publicly. That is enough. Tasha pointed at him triumphantly, like she'd just won a war. I knew there was a person in there. And, unfortunately, for Joon-Seo, he couldn't stop the small smile that appeared after that. Joon-Seo immediately tried to erase the smile like it had betrayed him in public. It didn't work.
Tasha saw it anyway.
Oh, she said slowly, leaning back in her chair. We're in dangerous territory now. There is no territory. There absolutely is, she replied.
You just laughed.
That's emotional real estate. I was reacting to happiness, to absurdity. Same thing, different branding. He looked at her like she was a problem that had learned how to talk back, which, honestly, she was enjoying a little too much. A knock interrupted them again. This time, it wasn't Jiyoon. A senior executive walked in without waiting. Older man. Sharp suit. Expression already irritated. He froze the moment he saw Tasha. Then slowly turned to Joon-Seo. Sir. Joon-Seo's entire posture changed instantly. The warmth vanished. Back to CEO mode.
Cold.
Controlled. Unreadable. Yes. The man stepped in carefully. We need to discuss the board's concern regarding the situation. Tasha raised her hand. Hi, I am the situation.
Silence.
The executive looked like he wanted to evaporate. Joon-Seo spoke flatly. She is here for an interview. The man nodded quickly. Yes, of course, sir. Then glanced at Tasha, again like she was a live grenade. Tasha whispered loudly. I can't hear you judging me. The man almost choked. Joon-Seo's eyes flicked toward her. Stop talking. I'm contributing to morale. You're not. I am chaos enrichment. The executive cleared his throat nervously. Sir, the board is also asking if you intend to proceed with the public narrative adjustment proposal. Tasha leaned forward immediately. Oh my God, they're still pushing the fake romance thing? The man nearly dropped his tablet. Joon-Seo's jaw tightened slightly. It is not a fake romance. Tasha blinked. Excuse me? Silence. The executive looked between them like he had just witnessed a nuclear shift. Joon-Seo corrected calmly. It is not being pursued. Tasha slowly leaned back. Okay, she said cautiously. Because I was about to say, sir, don't get ideas. The executive quickly bowed and left like the oxygen had been removed from the room. The door shut. Silence again. A heavier one this time. Tasha squinted at him. You said that weirdly. Said what? That sentence. I corrected it. No, she said slowly. You corrected it like someone who almost admitted something. Joon-Seo didn't respond. He just stared at his laptop again. Too focused. Too fast. Tasha stood up slowly and walked around the desk. You're doing that thing again. What thing? Deflecting. I am working. You are escaping. He finally looked at her. Cold again.
Controlled again.
But not fully. Not anymore. What do you want me to say? He asked. Tasha paused. That question landed differently. Less defensive. More real. She softened slightly. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe just don't act like everything is a corporate crisis. Silence. Then quietly. My life is a corporate crisis. That's sad. That is reality. Tasha tilted her head. You know, you keep talking like you're a machine, but you're actually just tired. That made him go still. Not angry. Not amused.
Still.
And that stillness felt heavier than anything else in the room so far. He looked away again. Your interview is in 30 minutes.
Tasha groaned.
Oh my God. You are allergic to feelings. I am not. You are emotionally firewalled. I am focused. You are emotionally on airplane mode. That got a faint exhale from him again.
Not laughter this time.
Just acknowledgement. She noticed something then. He wasn't pushing her away as hard anymore. He just didn't know how to stay in the moment. Tasha walked back to her chair and picked up her coffee again. Okay, she said casually. Let's pretend we're normal again. We are normal. No, she said, pointing at him. Normal people don't get phone calls from their mom asking about their love life while executives faint in elevators. He paused. No one fainted. Emotionally fainted then. Silence. Then, unexpectedly, you are not intimidated. Tasha looked at him, then laughed softly. By you? Yes. She shrugged. You're just a man with expensive stress. That hit differently. Not insulting. Not flattering. Just honest. Joon-Seo studied her quietly. People usually are intimidated. I know, she said. That's your problem. He blinked slightly. My problem? Yeah, she said simply. You built a world where nobody talks to you like a person.
Silence.
The city outside the glass walls moved on. But inside that office, something paused. Joon-Seo didn't respond immediately. Then quietly, and you do. Tasha smiled faintly.
Yeah.
Another pause. Then softer. Why? Tasha shrugged. Because you're not scary to me. That was it. Simple.
Honest.
And somehow, more destabilizing than anything else that had happened all day. Joon-Seo looked away again. But this time, the silence wasn't escape. It was thought. For a few seconds, Joon-Seo didn't speak, which for him was unusual. Tasha noticed immediately. She leaned slightly on the desk, watching him carefully. Did I break you? She asked.
No.
That was a fast answer. Suspiciously fast. I am fine. You're doing that thing again. What thing? The I am fine but my soul just did a backflip thing. That made his eyes flick toward her again. A little sharper this time, but not cold. Just aware. You speak too freely. And you think too quietly, she replied. We balance. I did not agree to balance. You didn't agree to a lot of things that are happening today. Silence. Then, surprisingly, that is accurate.
Tasha blinked. Wait.
You admitted I'm right. I acknowledged a fact. Sir, that's personal growth. He exhaled slightly through his nose. Not quite a laugh, but close enough for her to count it. Tasha walked back toward the window, looking out at the city below. So, she said casually, what happens after the interview? You return home. That sounds like dismissal. It is a plan. I don't like your plan. It is logical. Your logic is emotionally depressing. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stood up slowly and walked toward the window too, but stopped a small distance away from her. Not too close. Not too far. Just present. That situation downstairs, he said finally. The PR chaos? Yes. They're still obsessed with fake dating? They are attempting to control narrative exposure. Tasha turned slightly toward him. And you? A pause. Then quietly. I am attempting to control damage. Same answer, different sadness level, she said. That got a small pause from him.
Then.
You make everything sound simple. It is simple, she replied. People just complicate things because they're scared. Silence. A longer one this time. Joon-Seo looked out at the city, then said something softer. I do not have the luxury of simplicity. Tasha studied him. For the first time, no teasing. Just watching. You think I do? He didn't answer immediately. Then, yes. Tasha laughed lightly. That's hilarious. It is true. No, she said, shaking her head. My life is not simple. I just don't pretend it's controlled all the time. That made him go quiet again. He seemed to absorb that. Like it didn't fit neatly into his worldview. Which meant it stayed longer than expected. There was a knock. This time, Ji-yoon reappeared cautiously. Sir, it's almost time for the interview. Tasha sighed dramatically.
Oh wow.
My execution day. Ji-yoon almost smiled again before catching herself. Joon-Seo turned slightly. Prepare the room. Ji-yoon nodded and left quickly. Tasha turned back toward him.
So this is it, she said.
We do a formal interview where I pretend I didn't hear your emotional breakdown voicemail and you pretend I'm not a walking PR disaster. That is not accurate. It's emotionally accurate. Silence. Then, unexpectedly, you are not a disaster. Tasha paused. Excuse me? He didn't repeat it, just held her gaze for a second longer than usual. Then, you are a complication. Tasha narrowed her eyes. That sounds worse. It is different.
How?
It is manageable. She stared at him, then laughed softly. Oh my God.
What?
You're keeping me. That landed differently. His expression tightened slightly. I am not keeping you. Yes, you are, she said casually. Just in corporate language. That is not what is happening. Sure, she nodded. And I'm a temporary interview guest who accidentally became the center of your entire company's emotional instability. Silence. Then quietly. You are overstating your importance. Tasha smiled. Am I? That question hung there, because neither of them answered it immediately. Instead, Joon-Seo looked away first, and, for the first time, that silence felt less like control, and more like uncertainty. Tasha watched him look away, and something about that reaction made her smile fade just slightly. Not because she was offended, but because she could finally see the crack underneath all the control. She leaned back against the window frame. Okay, she said softly. That one wasn't even a joke. Joon-Seo didn't respond, which was already an answer. A real one. The room felt quieter now. Not empty, just heavier in a different way. Ji-yoon knocked again gently and opened the door just a bit. Sir, the interview panel is ready. Joon-Seo nodded once. 5 minutes. Ji-yoon left immediately. Tasha exhaled slowly. So, she said, trying to bring back the humor, this is where I get evaluated by people who think I'm a scandal in human form. They are professionals. Professionals love judging strangers, she replied. It's basically their hobby. That got a faint exhale from him. Not quite a laugh, but softer. Tasha pushed off the window and walked toward the door, then paused. She turned back slightly. Hey. He looked up. She hesitated for half a second. Then, you okay? The question didn't match the tone of the day. It wasn't teasing.
It wasn't sarcastic. Just direct.
Joon-Seo didn't answer immediately. And for the first time, he didn't default to work or control or distance. He just stood there. Then, quietly, I do not know. Tasha blinked. That was probably the most honest thing he had said since she met him. She nodded slowly. Okay, she said. That's better than I am fine. A pause. Then she added lightly. Growth. That made something shift at the corner of his mouth again. Barely there, but real. The door opened wider. June peeked in again. Miss Colins. Tasha straightened instantly.
Yep.
That's me. Scandalous me. Joon-Seo stepped slightly forward. Go. Tasha looked at him one last time, then smirked. If I survive this interview, I expect compensation. For what? For emotional damage and oat milk addiction. That earned her a full second of silence. Then, a small, unexpected answer. I will consider it. Tasha froze. Did you just say you'll consider it? Yes. She gasped. Oh my God. He's negotiating. I am responding. This is huge, she whispered dramatically. Character development arc unlocked. He didn't respond, but he didn't shut it down either, which, for him, was practically chaos. Tasha turned and walked out with June. But just before the door closed completely, she glanced back. Joon-Seo was still standing there, watching. Not cold, not distant, just present. And for the first time since that ridiculous voice note started everything. He didn't look like a CEO managing damage. He looked like a man trying to understand something he didn't have a system for.
The door closed. Down the hallway, Ji-yoon exhaled loudly.
I have to ask, she whispered. Tasha leaned in immediately. Yes. Are you two dating? Tasha nearly choked. No. Ji-yoon nodded quickly. Understood. Tasha paused, then added, not yet. Ji-yoon's eyes widened. Tasha immediately waved her hands. I'm joking. I am absolutely joking. But as they walked toward the interview room, neither of them noticed that, behind the glass office doors, Joon-Seo had actually turned back toward the window again. And for the first time all day, he wasn't thinking about damage control. He was thinking about her. The interview room felt colder than Tasha expected. Not temperature-wise, energy-wise. 3 panelists sat across a long table with identical professional expressions, like someone had printed serious corporate judgment onto their faces. Tasha sat down slowly. Okay, she muttered to herself. Don't panic. They are just humans in expensive suits. Expensive, judging humans. One of them cleared his throat. Miss Colins. Yes, she said immediately. That's me. Unfortunately. A small pause. One of them glanced at her file. We've reviewed your design portfolio for the youth campaign project. Tasha nodded. That's great. I also reviewed my financial instability this morning. We're all doing research. Silence. The second panelist blinked slowly. Let's begin. 10 minutes in, Tasha realized something. They weren't just evaluating her work. They were evaluating her personality. And worse, they were trying not to mention the CEO. Failing miserably. So, one panelist said carefully, how did you come to be in contact with Mr. Kang Joon-Seo? Tasha tilted her head. Oh, you mean accidentally receiving his emotional voicemail like I'm customer support for billionaires? The panel froze. Another cleared his throat. I mean professionally. Tasha smiled. Freelance application. He called me in. I did not summon him with witchcraft, if that's what you're wondering. That got a tiny twitch from one of them. Almost a smile. Almost. Another question followed quickly. Do you feel comfortable working under high-pressure leadership? Tasha leaned back. Define pressure. Strict deadlines. Normal. Intense expectations. Also normal. Direct communication style. Tasha paused, then smirked slightly. Oh, I can handle that one. A pause. Then carefully. Even if the CEO is unconventional? Tasha blinked innocently. You mean emotionally unavailable with excellent bone structure? Silence. One panelist coughed. Tasha continued casually. I can manage. Meanwhile, outside the room, Joon-Seo stood with Ji-yoon reviewing documents, but his attention kept drifting. Ji-yoon noticed. Sir, she whispered. Are you waiting? I am working. You've read the same paragraph 4 times. Silence. Then, proceed. Ji-yoon wisely said nothing more. But she had seen it. He wasn't just monitoring the interview. He was paying attention. Too much attention. Back inside the interview room, Tasha was now fully in her element. So, one panelist asked, "What would you say is your biggest weakness?" Tasha sighed dramatically. "My biggest weakness is that I attract emotionally complicated Korean CEOs who send accidental confession audio messages." Dead silence. The panel froze. Tasha added quickly, "Hypothetically speaking." That did not help. One panelist slowly looked down at his notes like reality had just glitched. Another cleared his throat. "We are not discussing that." "Great," Tasha said, "because I also don't have legal clearance for that conversation." The tension cracked slightly. Not fully, but enough. And Tasha noticed something. They were no longer evaluating her like a risk. They were reacting to her like a person. Outside again, Ji-yoon carefully said, "Sir, the panel seems a less tense." Joon-Seo nodded slightly. That is expected. But his eyes didn't leave the glass reflection of the interview room. Ji-yoon hesitated. Then quietly, "She is influencing the room." Silence. Joon-Seo didn't answer immediately. Then, "That is not a qualification." But his voice wasn't dismissive. It was observant. Inside, the final question came. "If selected, why do you want to work with KJ Global?" Tasha paused. For once, she didn't joke immediately. Then she leaned forward slightly. "Because your company is loud on the outside," she said carefully, "but feels like it forgot how to breathe on the inside." Silence. That landed differently. One panelist looked up fully now. Tasha continued softly. "I design things. I notice patterns. And I think there's a difference between efficiency and exhaustion." The room went quiet.
Not awkward this time.
Listening quiet. She exhaled lightly. "And honestly," she added, returning to her usual tone, "your CEO accidentally sent me a voice note, and now I'm here. So I guess I'm involved in destiny at this point." That broke it. One of the panelists actually laughed. Quickly tried to hide it.
Failed.
Outside, Ji-yoon whispered, "Sir, she is doing well." Joon-Seo nodded once. "I know." A pause. Then Ji-yoon added carefully, "You are smiling again."
He stopped.
Then subtly returned his expression to neutral. "I am not." Ji-yoon nodded like she had seen this behavior in nature before. "Yes, sir." Inside the room, the panelist finally closed the file. "Thank you, Miss Colins." Tasha stood up. "Thank you for surviving me." That got another almost laugh from the table. As she left the room, she exhaled deeply. "That was either a disaster or a job offer disguised as trauma," she muttered. Ji-yoon met her outside immediately. "You did well." Tasha blinked.
Oh wow.
That sounded sincere. "Are you okay?" Ji-yoon smiled slightly. "The CEO is waiting." Tasha groaned. "Of course he is." When she returned to the hallway outside his office, Joon-Seo was already there. Waiting. Not sitting. Not working. Just waiting. Tasha stopped. "So," she said, "did I survive your corporate Hunger Games?" He looked at her for a second. Then, "Yes." "Great." A pause. Then quietly, "They liked you." Tasha raised an eyebrow. "I know. You are confident." "I am correct," she said simply. That got a faint exhale from him again. Then he added, "You were defective." Tasha blinked. "That sounds like you're describing a tool." "I am describing performance." "Sir," she said, pointing at him, "you are emotionally allergic to compliments." "I am precise." "You are avoidant." Silence. Then, unexpectedly, "You are selected." Tasha froze slightly. "Wait. I got the job." "Yes." She stared at him, then slowly smiled. "Oh no." He frowned slightly.
What?
"I think I work for you now." A pause. Then softly, "Yes." Tasha narrowed her eyes. This is how horror movies start. That made him exhale again. Almost a laugh. Almost. And this time, he didn't stop it as quickly. Tasha stopped walking for a second. then slowly turned toward him. Did you just say yes like that was normal? Joon-Seo looked at her, calm as ever. It is normal. No, she said immediately. Nothing about my life is normal right now. He adjusted his cuff slightly. You accepted the position. I did not accept emotional entanglement with a corporate iceberg. That is not part of the role. It is definitely happening anyway. A beat of silence. Then, unexpectedly, his lips twitched again. Tasha pointed immediately. There. Again. I did not smile. You are smiling in fragments at this point. That is not possible. It is absolutely possible, she said. You're just emotionally buffering. That made him exhale through his nose again. He started walking. She followed. The hallway felt different now. Not tense, but lighter in a strange way. Like something had shifted, but nobody had labeled it yet. Tasha glanced sideways at him. So what now, boss? Orientation. She groaned loudly. Oh my God. I knew it. Corporate prison arc begins. It is not a prison. Sir, your building has marble floors and silent employees. That's a luxury prison. He didn't respond immediately. Then, you are dramatic, and you are emotionally constipated. I am focused. You are avoidant. He stopped walking. Tasha stopped too. They stood there in the hallway. He looked at her. She looked back. Then he said quietly, You speak to me as if there are no consequences. Tasha blinked, then shrugged. Because you act like there aren't. That landed. Not sharply, but deeply. The air between them changed slightly. Joon-Seo didn't respond immediately. Then, that is incorrect. Tasha tilted her head. Then what are you doing? Silence. Longer this time. For once, he didn't answer with logic. He answered with honesty. I do not know. That was it. Simple. Unpolished. Real. Tasha's expression softened slightly. Okay, she said quietly. That's the first normal thing you've said all day. He looked away briefly, then continued walking. She followed. But this time, the space between them didn't feel like distance. It felt like pause. Inside his office again, things were quieter. Too quiet. Tasha looked around. So, do I get a desk or do I just sit here and emotionally inconvenience you full-time? You will have a workspace. Wow. I'm moving up in the world. Joon-Seo sat behind his desk, then looked at her. Your responsibilities will be clear. Love that for me. You will assist the creative direction for the youth campaign. Got it. A pause. Then, and avoid unnecessary attention. Tasha pointed at herself. Sir, I am unnecessary attention in human form. I am aware. Oh wow. Self-awareness in leadership. Rare. He ignored that. But he was watching her again. Not like before. Not distant. More assessing. Like she was a variable he hadn't fully categorized yet. Tasha noticed. You're doing it again. What? The staring thing. I am evaluating. That sounds like something a robot says before falling in love. Silence. Immediate silence. Too immediate. Tasha grinned slowly. Oh my God. What? You paused. I did not. You absolutely did. I was thinking. About what? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. Tasha leaned slightly on the desk. Relax, she said lightly. I'm not going to turn your company upside down. A pause. Then, you already have. That made her laugh. Fair. A knock interrupted them. Ji-yoon entered again, but this time she looked less stressed. Almost relieved. Sir, she said, the board meeting has been postponed. Joon-Seo nodded. Good. Ji-yoon hesitated, then added carefully. There is also less online speculation now. Tasha blinked. Oh wow. That's fast. Ji-yoon nodded. Yes. The interview coverage changed the tone. Tasha smiled. So, I'm a PR miracle now. Ji-yoon looked like she agreed, but was afraid to say it. Then she left again. Silence returned. Joon-Seo leaned back slightly in his chair. Tasha studied him. You know, she said, for someone who said this was damage control, you don't look very controlled. He looked at her. What does that mean? It means you're thinking too much. I am always thinking.
Exactly, she said.
That's the problem.
A pause. Then softly.
Thinking is the job. Tasha shook her head.
No, she said.
Living is the job. Thinking is just the side quest. That made him go quiet again. Longer this time. Then quietly. That is not how I operate. I noticed, she replied. Another pause. Then, unexpectedly. Teach me.
Tasha blinked.
Excuse me? The words sat between them differently. Not command. Not corporate instruction. Something closer to curiosity. Joon-Seo repeated it slightly differently. Show me. Tasha stared at him, then slowly smiled. Oh, she said softly. So now you want chaos training? I want efficiency. You want chaos training, she corrected. Silence. Then, reluctantly. Possibly. Tasha laughed under her breath. Sir, this is going to be your downfall. He didn't respond. But this time, he didn't look away either. Tasha leaned back in the chair like she was already regretting the responsibility she had just been handed. Okay, she said slowly. First lesson in how to not be emotionally buffering like a broken app. You stop talking like a company memo. Joon-Seo blinked. I do not talk like a memo. You absolutely do, she said immediately. You sound like you were born inside a quarterly report. Silence. He opened his mouth. Closed it again. Tasha pointed instantly. That pause? That's you realizing I'm right. I am considering your wording. Same thing. A faint exhale left him. Not annoyance this time. Something closer to reluctant acceptance. Tasha straightened in her chair. Rule 1, she said, holding up a finger. If a human being makes you laugh, you are allowed to let it happen without filing an internal investigation. That is not a rule. It is now. He looked at her for a moment. Then, quietly, that would reduce efficiency.
Tasha gasped.
Oh my God. You just chose efficiency over joy. I did not choose anything over anything. You are allergic to happiness, she declared. I am not. Prove it. Silence. That one landed harder than expected. Because now it wasn't a joke. It was a challenge. Joon-Seo leaned back slightly in his chair, studying her. Then, very quietly, what counts as proof? Tasha paused. That was new. He didn't shut it down. He didn't dismiss it. He asked. That alone changed the atmosphere. She tilted her head. Okay, she said slowly. Step 1. You admit when something is funny. I already do that. No, you do that in secret like it's illegal. Silence. That is not accurate. It is, she insisted. You laugh like someone might report you to HR. A faint twitch appeared at the corner of his mouth again. She saw it instantly. Oh my God, she whispered. It's happening again. What is? Your personality trying to escape. I do not have multiple personalities. You have CEO mode, exhausted man mode, and almost human mode. That is not scientifically valid. Sir, neither is your emotional repression, but here we are. That got him again. A real exhale. Almost a laugh. Almost. Tasha leaned forward. Good, she said. That one counted. It did not. It absolutely did. A knock interrupted them. Ji-yoon entered cautiously again, but this time she looked curious. Not stressed. Curious. Sir, she said softly, the social media engagement around Miss Colins is increasing again. Tasha groaned. Oh no. What now? Ji-yoon hesitated. People are saying you two have chemistry. Tasha slowly turned her head toward Joon-Seo. Oh wow. Joon-Seo immediately straightened. That is not relevant. It is very relevant, Tasha said, smiling now. It is not accurate. Sir, Ji-yoon added carefully, there is also fan content. Tasha froze. Fan what? Ji-yoon quickly corrected herself. Speculative edits. About me? Yes. And him? Yes. Tasha slowly turned back toward Joon-Seo. Congratulations, she said. You are internet boyfriend now. I am not. You absolutely are. Joon-Seo rubbed his temple. This is becoming unmanageable. Tasha grinned. No, she said lightly. This is becoming interesting. Silence. Then Ji-yoon quietly added, people like you together. That made the room pause. Even Joon-Seo went still. Tasha blinked. Wait. Ji-yoon nodded once. Yes. Tasha slowly looked at him, then whispered, oh no. What? I think your PR team might actually get what they want. Joon-Seo frowned slightly. And what is that? Tasha leaned back slowly. Narrative control. Silence. Then she smiled slightly. But the problem is, she added, they don't control me. Joon-Seo looked at her. Longer this time. Then quietly. I noticed. That landed differently again. Not as corporate. Not as CEO. Just recognition. Tasha stood up slowly. So, she said, stretching slightly, what's next in my emotionally unstable job description? Joon-Seo looked at her, then said, lunch.
She paused.
A lunch? Yes. With you? Yes. She blinked, then smiled. Oh wow.
What?
You're evolving. I am not evolving. You are, she said confidently. First you laugh, then you ask questions, now you're feeding me. That is not evolution. That's the beginning of attachment, she said casually. Silence. Joon-Seo didn't respond immediately, but he stood up anyway, and for the first time, he didn't correct her. He just said, come. Tasha followed him out, and as they walked through the glass hallway again, employees stared again. But this time, the whispers weren't just confusion. They were curiosity, because something had changed. Not officially, not publicly, but visibly. Joon-Seo walked slightly slower than before. Tasha walked beside him, without hesitation, and neither of them corrected the space between them anymore. Not even once. They reached the rooftop cafeteria of KJ Global just as the city light shifted into late afternoon gold. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Tasha looked out over Seoul, then down at the food tray in front of her. So this is how I get assimilated, she said quietly. Lunch with the emotionally unavailable CEO. Joon-Seo sat across from her. I am not emotionally unavailable. Tasha raised an eyebrow. Sir, you literally treat feelings like system errors. He paused. Then unexpectedly, that is not entirely inaccurate. Tasha laughed. Growth. Silence settled between them again, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was settled. Like something that had been chaotic finally found a rhythm, it didn't fight. Tasha picked at her food. So what happens after this? She asked casually. You continue working. And you continue whatever this is? He looked at her. This time he didn't deflect. I continue working, he said, then added after a pause. And you stop being noise I ignore. Tasha blinked. That sounded almost like affection. It is not. Denial. Classic. He didn't argue further. Instead, he simply ate. For the first time, she noticed something small. He wasn't rushing. Not controlling the moment. Just in it. Tasha leaned back slightly. You know, she said, this all started because you sent one angry voice note. I am aware. And now I have a job, a reputation, and internet fans shipping me with you. That is not ideal. It's hilarious, she corrected. A faint pause. Then, you are not leaving. Tasha looked at him. Leaving? Yes. She tilted her head. I mean, I could. Silence. That landed differently. Because it was true. She could. But she didn't say it like she would. Joon-Seo watched her carefully. Then quietly. Do not. Tasha blinked. That was not a command tone. It wasn't CEO tone. It was something else. She studied him for a moment, then smiled softly. Wow, she said. That sounded personal. It is practical, he corrected immediately. Sir, she said, pointing lightly at him, you are emotionally upgrading at an alarming rate. He didn't respond, but the corner of his mouth lifted slightly again.
Not hidden this time.
Just small.
Real.
Tasha exhaled and leaned back. Okay, she said. I'll stay. Joon-Seo looked at her. For work.
For now, she added.
Silence. But this one didn't feel uncertain anymore. It felt unfinished. Not broken.
Just continuing.
He nodded once.
Good.
Tasha smirked.
Careful, CEO.
That almost sounded like you're happy. I am not. You are, she insisted. He looked at her. Long pause. Then, quietly, do not make me repeat myself. Tasha grinned. Oh, I'm definitely making you repeat yourself. And for the first time since the chaos began, Joon-Seo didn't shut her down. He just watched her, like he had finally stopped treating her as a disruption and started recognizing her as part of the system he hadn't built for himself yet. And that was exactly where everything was about to change. If you enjoyed this Afro-Korean romantic comedy and want more stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your favorite moment below. And tell me honestly, do you think Tasha will survive working for Kang Joon-Seo? Or will the Korean robot man finally fall in love first?
Eyes.